Hey internet, it's me. We're gonna talk about the first time I got arrested. Well, we can talk about the first time I got arrested and then the consequences afterwards. This was summer. This was towards the end of summer. I think school started like a week after the day of when I got arrested. Well, I would say night. Well, it was the day before. It was like at nighttime. I had a buddy come over. And we were bored, and I remember my buddy asking me, going, hey, you should ask your mom if she can get us beer. And I remember, I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, sure, why not? Context reason is, a lot of people came over to my house to hang out with my mom. Because she would let them drink and smoke. She didn't really care. It was good times. It wasn't a good time, but basically that's why, you know, my friend asked because he knew kind of how my mom was. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And I was like, well, you got money? And he's like, no, I ain't got no money. And I was like, oh, okay, so you just want me to ask and see if she gets it. Okay, I could do that. And I remember, it was like, I want to say Friday night. It was all on the weekend. It was like the weekend-esque, but I remember my mom going, yeah, sure, I can get you some beer. And I was like, oh, cool. And so it was me, my mom, and my friend. We go, I think we were going to a Safeway, and we're in the alcohol aisle, and she was like, I'm gonna pick up the beer, and you know, you can pick out how much you want to drink. And I was like, okay, cool. So we're over in the beer aisle, and she picks out Bud Light. And she goes, how much are you guys going to drink? And I was like, well, a lot. And so I think it was a 12-pack. Because they were bottles. So you can't have like 2 layers stacked. So I think it was just a 12-pack of bottles. It was a big box. And I remember she grabbed it. We went and paid. Cashier didn't ask any questions about it. Loaded it in the car. We get home. Stepdad wasn't there. He was at work, so this was probably Friday night. We go to my room. I have the beer. She looks at me and goes, you didn't get it from me? If you get caught, be responsible. Don't leave and drink. You can drink it in the house and then leave, but don't take it with you. And I was like, all right, Mom, we won't do that. You know, she was trying to be somewhat responsible about it. And so, maybe it was like 24-pack. It was a lot of beer. I just remember it was a lot of beer. And I remember Friday night, we were just drinking them and playing video games. And we were having fun. It was great. Stepdad didn't know. We weren't drunk. But, yeah, no, it was fun. Then the next morning happened. We got up probably about 11 or 12, and my buddy's like, all right, well, we still got beer, let's go walk around and drink and, you know, have fun. And I'm like, fine. And so I had a backpack. I just grabbed the rest of the bottles one by one, put them in the bag, zipped them up. Like, crap, they're making noises, so, you know, open it up, put a sweater in there, zipped it up, problem solved. So we ended up, we're about to leave. My mom goes, you ain't got no alcohol on you, right? And I'm like, nope, we're good. And then she's like, okay. And then we leave. Friend wanted to go to his house real quick because he wanted to pick up his airsoft gun. I was like, sure, why not, whatever. So we go and get his airsoft gun. In hindsight, that's probably what made it, you know, the worst thing to do. Then we were walking around. A friend decided to shoot houses and whatnot with it. And I'm like, bruh, don't think you should be doing that. But we walked quite a bit. I think it was like, we walked about 4 or 5 hours around just drinking, stopping places. Eventually, it started getting dark. And so I'm like, okay, we probably should head back home. You know, he was gonna stay the weekend, so we were like, yeah, it's Saturday, and we're going to where the road turns right going towards my house. He's like, hold on, I know this old homeless guy. Let's stop, talk to him, and give him a beer. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? We're almost home. There's only like 3 or 4 left. So we're talking to him at the bus stop. You know, he was like pretty cool guy. You know, gave him a beer, a couple cigarettes. Everything was fine. Zipped up the bag, started walking off. At that moment, because we didn't realize, but there was a cop behind us. We hear whoop whoop, and then I turn around going, oh shit. And 2 cops come out, and they had their guns drawn out. I remember this very clearly. It was guns. And they're pointing it at me and my friend going, put the gun down. And we're being stupid teenagers who've been drinking going, it's not real. Don't you see the orange tip? Because it really did look realistic. It was made out of metal and too much detail for an airsoft gun. And you know, so they told us to put it on the ground kind of thing. And I'm like, fuck, we're fucked. Because I remember looking at my buddy going, we're fucked. So he puts it down on the ground. They put theirs away. They pick it up and they go, oh yeah, it is just an airsoft gun. And they're like, do you know why we're here? And I'm like, nope. He's like, well, we've been getting calls of somebody going around shooting at random stuff. And I'm like, see, I told you that was a dumb idea, because I'm telling my friend at the time, and he's like, well, I didn't know. And I'm like, it's common sense. And eventually they're like, okay, now we got to search you. And I'm just like, I remember looking at my buddy going, okay, this is where we're fucked. And so they put us up against a fence, and then they're like, okay, spread, you know, we're going to search. They find smokes, they find cigarettes on my buddy. And then on me, they find my cigarettes. They were on the side pocket of my backpack. Then they're like, okay, now we're going to search your backpack. And I'm like, oh no, please don't. And I hear the zips open up. It hits their face. They go, whoo. And then I hear, we got a MIP. And I'm like, what is a MIP? Well, you know, minor in possession. And I remember them telling me, all right, well, we're going to arrest you and your friend's going to go home. And I was livid at this point, because he's been drinking. He was the one that kept shooting stuff. I was like, why am I getting arrested but he isn't? This seems very unfair. And they're like, well, you're getting arrested because you have the alcohol. I'm like, but that's not all right. I mean, he's been drinking. And so I was kind of arguing with the cop. And eventually, yeah, no, I'm in the back seat at this point, handcuffed. And my friend is looking into the car, because they let him do that for some reason, going, oh, I'm gonna go home and I'll tell your or I'm gonna go to your house, tell your mom, Herbert. You know, basically trying to reassure me that, you know, hey, you're gonna get out fast. And I'm just like, you should be in here too, man. You were drinking and causing a nuisance. And so, you know, he actually ended up going home. He never went to my house to tell my mom. But I remember the ride, and it was quite a bit of a long ride. It was like probably a good 30-minute ride, because the police station was far, and there was only like one for the surrounding cities. And I remember the cop was telling me, like, man, I get it, I was young, kind of thing. He was trying to give me the talk of, like, you know, I get it, I was young, I did stupid stuff. And I'm just sitting there going, yep, this is stupid. I learned my lesson, you know, don't bring alcohol. But, you know, so I get to the, because they didn't take me to the police station, it took me to the juvenile place. And I remembered it was nighttime at this point, because when I was getting arrested, it was becoming nighttime. And then I'm actually there, and it's nighttime, and I go, cop brings me in, and they're talking, and then the cop leaves, and then the guy who's there goes, alright, I'm going to take the cuffs off. I can trust you, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do anything. He's like, alright, cool. So he takes cuffs off. So he puts me in a holding room. And he goes, alright, I'm going to look up. I'm going to look up and see, you know, who do I call, etc. And I'm like, oh, you can call my mom and kind of thing. And so I'm just sitting in this, like, holding area. And I remember him just peeking his head going, are you sure you haven't been here before? I'm like, no, I would remember this. Like, So he keeps looking, and I'm like, he asked me a few times, and I'm just like, dude, I've never been in here. This is my first time. He finally gets hold of my mom. And I remember my mom comes in, and she's angry. She's fuming. She's like yelling at the guy, and then I come out. She starts yelling at me and goes, "You're lucky I don't, hit you." And I'm just sitting there going, "Okay, mom, yep." And then I remember the cop going, "Oh, that's unnecessary," kind of thing. And then, we finally get into the car, and she goes, "I can't believe you got arrested." And then we started laughing, and it goes, "Would you learn anything?" I'm like, "Yeah. Don't bring idiots with you when you're drinking, or don't bring alcohol." And then I remember we're riding back, and then she goes, "Don't worry, I'm not going to tell, stepdad," and, all that. Funny thing is, though, in the morning, it was like 6 a.m. I hear, "God damn it." Brr, 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 brr. So he found out because, they called the next day to leave a message, apparently. And yeah, I had to go. I'm trying to think. I don't remember going to a court thingy, because I think what happened is they called to tell me what my punishment was, which was supposed to be a drug and alcohol class and community service. And so I remember I went to the drug and alcohol class. It was like a one-day thing. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be annoying. And turns out one of my friends was there. So we hung out and kind of disrupted the whole class. It was pretty bad, but no, other than that, I didn't do the community service. I remember that, and they didn't really care. They're like, whatever, you went to the class, that's fine. But I did get grounded for quite a bit. Stepdad did not like that. He was very angry. That was probably, I think, like 2 months of grounding. Which, back then, I would get grounded all the time. Like, I've had, you have no summers kind of thing. And then, like, 3 days later, I was ungrounded because my mom would get me ungrounded. And so it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're going to ground me, but I know I'm going to get ungrounded soon. Which caused many problems. Like, man, stepdad never had it easy. I realized that as an adult, but yeah, that was my first time being arrested. And yeah, no, it was interesting, because you think you have a smart idea, and then you realize, no, you had a dumb idea. So hopefully you all enjoyed that, and I'll catch you all later.